Hi, I'm Sam with jbugs.com. In our last video, we finished up the chassis assembly on our 1971 Eurolook Super Beetle. Now with the chassis complete, we can prep it by installing a new Panda body seal, and we can set the body back in place on the pan. We start with the new uncut Panda body seal and tape it at one side of the frame head. Once it's secure, we run it to the opposite side and cut it to length. From here, we have two options. VW originally held the seal in place with carpet nails. You can see the holes along the chassis, and we could use new nails and install them into the original holes through the pan seal. We installed new pan halves though and don't want to punch new holes in them, so we're going to opt to glue the seal in place for most of the install. We lay a bead of roofed flashing adhesive along the edge of the pan and around the body bolt holes, and lay the seal over the top of that. We tape the seal in place while the adhesive cures, and untape the opposite side of the seal, and follow the same process there. Along the side, we trim the edge of the seal to line up with the frame head, and then continue the process, laying down a bead of adhesive and taping it in place. At the rear of the chassis, the seal is trimmed at the back edge, and once both sides are done, we center up the remaining length of the pan to body seal at the chassis. A bead of adhesive is laid around the access plate, and here we'll use some carpet nails to hold the seal in place. Once the seal is secure at the center of the chassis, we run a bead of adhesive down the edge of the pan, we set the seal in place, and use some new Panda body bolts to help keep the seal centered. The seal is also taped down and then trimmed to length, a small bead of adhesive to use at the joint, and one more piece of tape is used to keep the seal in place. The opposite side of the seal is installed in the same way. Then we can move to the body and set the heater ducts, with hoses attached, in place under the rear luggage shelf. The ducts here can only be installed or removed with the body off the pan. Once the body is in place, the torsion housing will be in the way, so make sure these ducts are installed before the body is set in place. Inside the car, the heater outlet ducts that sit under the rear seat at either side are set in place into the heater channel and aligned with the body ducts. Back underneath the luggage tray, the bolts for the body ducts are installed and tightened down. Be careful not to over-tighten the bolts, as the ducts are made of very brittle material and can crack easily. A few hours later at the chassis, once the adhesive is cured, we pull off all the tape that held the Panda body seal in place, and we use a razor blade to cut out all the holes for the Panda body bolts along the edge of the chassis and frame head. The rear shocks are removed and the truss bars laid down on top of the transmission. Then, with the help of some coworkers, we lift the body over the chassis and set it down in place. We concentrate on lining up the rear first. Then at the front of the pan, we use a pair of needle nose pliers to make sure that the cut bolts for the front body nut plates that we repaired line up with the chassis. This step is specific to our car, as we had to repair the front body nut plates. Once both nut plate bolts are through the pan, we jack up the car at the front and the rear and set it on jack stands so we can easily access all the Panda body bolts at the bottom of the chassis. We start at the front nut plate bolts and thread in a bolt so that the nut plate won't move. Then we remove our alignment pin and thread in another bolt. With both front sides done, we move inside the car and install the 4 bolts and body washers at the front of the luggage shelf to the rear of the floor pans. Back underneath the car, the Panda body bolts and washers are installed along each side of the body. The front chassis bolts are installed at both sides of the front frame head, and note that there is not a pad on a Super Beetle between the pan and body. Inside the trunk, at the back of the spare tire well, the 2 bolts are installed. Then, back inside the car, the 2 pan to body tunnel bolts are installed. Finally, we move to the rear shock tower mounts. VW offered 2 thicknesses of the body pads, which install here, and if you have a standard Beetle, at the bottom of the front beam body mounts. More often than not, 10mm pads are used. The thicker 17mm pads can be used as a body shim on a convertible to set the door gap, or, in some cases, you'll use them on the shock towers if you use a different year chassis and a body. Since these are the last 2 bolts to be threaded in, once they are, they're fully tightened down, along with the other remaining body bolts. Up next, we'll get the front suspension and steering installed, so we can get our Beetle back on all 4 of its own proper wheels and tires. That'll be next week. In the meantime, make sure to click the like button below, follow us if you haven't already, and when you need parts or accessories for your vintage VW, head over to jbugs.com.